Yeah, my name is Jon Ronsani. I'm also known as Farmer Jon around these parts. I've been at Katchkie Farm for 1 year, since last April, and what drew me to farming was interest in food, wanting to get a closer connection to what is on my plate and what is on other people's plates. Katchkie Farm, the whole farm is about 60 acres, so that's a mix. We have a mix of woodlands, we have a wonderful pond for irrigation, we have fields for vegetables, we have a greenhouse area, packing area, and so we mainly grow for Great Performances Catering Company. So there's a certain array of things that they're looking for that we can grow. Lettuces, tomatoes, eggplants, peppers, carrots, beets. We don't grow certain things that don't quite make sense for us to grow on our scale. Like larger scale things, if we got into potatoes, that would involve a certain level of mechanization. So focusing on things that we can do well by hand is kind of what we do at Katchkie. And then working to create a healthy soil is going to make the crops different from what is available commercially. The soil is the most important thing in farming. So if you're not taking care of that and managing that, I think all the other practices you can think of, they're only kind of band-aid practices. So we have to utilize our scale to our advantage. So at our scale, producing an endless poundage of a certain vegetable is not our strong point. So producing a certain amount of vegetables with a very high quality and flavor is what we try to do. Yeah, if we didn't have high tunnels growing season, we would start planting things in early April, and we could harvest until about the end of October, possibly into November, and that's with row cover. A row cover is it's kind of like a huge curtain that we put over certain crops that'll let us get out in the field a little earlier and a little later in the season. And we also have 2 high tunnels at Katchkie Farm that will allow us to produce year-round. So we can produce cold-hardy crops in November, December, January, February, and March. That out in the fields, everything is still frozen. So by having those 2 spaces on the farm, that allows us to produce things year-round. Katchkie Farm is certified organic. So any fertilizer we put on the ground, it has to come from a natural source. And within that organic certification, there's also certain rules and regulations about washing and packing. And so we're a small farm, and everything on the farm is grown organically, and our delivery vehicles only has Katchkie produce in there, so it's not like there's a lot of cross contamination of things. All the equipment is only used on Katchkie Farm. It's not what I studied in college. I went to college and studied music performance at Bard College, mainly doing jazz improvisation on guitar. At that point I thought I was going to do something in music, and after college stayed around here instead of going to somewhere metropolitan. and yeah, just got involved in farms around here, and it seemed like something I was really interested in, and I just kept going, and here I am. I mean, there's a whole spectrum of opinion um, on what schooling you need. I remember in my first year of farming, one of the farmers I was working for welcomed me to the School of Hard Knocks. So there's that school. There's more traditional educational programs. I mean, there's agricultural colleges. You have more formal apprenticeships. But I think paying attention to the mistakes that you make during farming, and realizing that you only get a chance about once a year to not make those mistakes again. So yeah, attentiveness. Yeah, you just keep plugging away. Eventually, you'll get somewhere. Yeah, seasonality. I mean, you could just go with flavor. It could be one reason why seasonality. If you're just looking at it from a pure eating standpoint, what's coming out of the ground at your local farm during that time of year is going to taste completely different than what's coming from somewhere else. I mean, there's also the fact that seasonality, I mean, you're supporting a local economy. So, if you're eating in season, it means that stuff was grown on a farm around you, during that time of year. So it's also a difference in how you engage with the economic life around you as well. I always enjoy knowing who produces my food, or enjoy. I like to engage with the people I do business with, and so if I were a consumer purchasing food, and I could get to know, a farmer or several farms who I really enjoyed purchasing food from, and there's just a certain connection. You have a face, or at least some knowledge of what's behind what it is you're purchasing. So, when you go to a grocery store, you don't have that. You see a lettuce head, or a bunch of beets on the display rack, the shelf, and there's a bit of disconnection. But when you actually see the person who's making what you're purchasing, all the time and effort they put into it, there's just something that who you're supporting and what you're supporting. Strong farm team. I mean, communication. You have to be able to communicate. All the things that are needed on the farm. So I think in terms of a manager, having to know what the priorities are, on the farm, and yeah, I mean, just knowing that we're all doing hard work together. So, there's certain ways you can go about hard work. I mean, you can go about it begrudgingly, or you can go about it with a lighter attitude. And I always found that if folks can keep a little light mood, not too light, but just kind of enjoy what they're doing. The day and the quality of what's coming out of the fields is going to be so much better. So if you have a team, it's just like any other team. So the better that the cohesiveness of the team is, the better and more efficient what you produce is going to be. I would say that the important insight is to know when to plant, what to plant. So, yeah, I remember a lot of times folks asking me, when do I plant, tomatoes or watermelons, or can I grow this here? Is it too late to grow this here? So knowing where you are in the climate, we go by zones. So knowing where you are, what zone you're in, is going to help you immensely in what you want to plant. And there's going to be some mistakes if this is your first time. If you read a book, there are chances that book was not written for your backyard. So, if the book says plant tomatoes in the 1st of May, and there's still, you still have nights that are going below freezing the 1st of May, maybe you have plants that are ready to go out, and you just hold them, wait till next year, take a note. But, after a few seasons, 3, 4, 5 seasons of taking notes and trying things and seeing what works, you're going to have a lot better understanding of what to plant and when to plant it. Straight from the ground, tomatoes. Tomatoes would be the favorite straight from the ground. Yeah, and there's just opportunities, at least harvesting tomatoes in the field. You get ones that aren't quite gonna make it to the pack shed, and you know where they're gonna make it.